you know what? Let's make a tier list. And not just any tier list, a tier list about Pokemon. Now, I personally am a bit of a casual when it comes to Pokemon, but I've been playing Pokemon. How long have I been playing Pokemon? Hang on. Let me look at when. I've been playing Pokemon since I was about 9, I'd say. When I bought my first ever Pokemon game, Pokemon Platinum, at a garage sale. Used copy of Pokemon Platinum. That was my first ever Pokemon game. Now, my oldest Pokemon game that I personally own is Pokemon Emerald, but I only recently got that, so I go back as far as Generation 4. And I believe we're on Generation 9 now. So, what I've come up with, or not come up with, I found a tier list of pretty much every single major Pokemon game that's ever been released. And we have our, S tier, top of the top, the best games, in my opinion. Then we have our A tier, which are good games, but aren't necessarily like I hold on a golden pedestal. Then we have our B tier, which are good games, but, they could have done so much more. Then we have our C tier. And C tier is what I'm going to be using as like our baseline. These are games that exist. They don't necessarily excel in anything, but they aren't necessarily bad at anything either. Then we have D tier. Not absolutely bad, but wasn't that great. And then we have F tier. Garbage. And then 2 tiers currently playing, because there are some games that I'm currently playing that I have going in completely blind. And I don't necessarily want to rate them because I haven't finished them yet. And then there's the games that I have never experienced at all, whether it's watching a playthrough, learning the story about, or playing myself. There are some games that for example, Pokemon Puzzle League. I have never experienced that game. Same with Pokemon Puzzle Challenge. Never experienced it, so I can't give my 2 opinions on it at all. But there are a lot of games that I have gotten to experience and or play. I mean, I personally have sitting on my desk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cartridges, and there's Pokemon Legends Arceus, which I have also played. So when it comes to Pokemon games, I've played a fair amount, and I've also experienced a fair amount. So I want to give my opinion on the games in this tier list video. Starting off with Pokemon Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Platinum. Or not Heart Gold, Gold, Silver, and Gold, Silver, and Crystal. There have been so many Pokemon games, and I'm switching them up. I would say the first direct sequels to Pokemon, like the original Red, Blue, Green, I'd put them in B tier. They were pretty much just the originals, but with more. Kind of like how Tears of the Kingdom is like Breath of the Wild, but with more. Then we have Pokemon Stadium. I've never experienced the Stadium games. Personally, just never had a chance. So both of these can go in never experienced. Then we have, I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to put that in never experienced. In fact, let's just go through all of these and figure out what games I have not experienced. We have Pokemon Box, Pokemon Channel, Pinball, Pokemon Dash, Trazi, Battle Revolutions. I don't have much experience with the Mystery Dungeon games, so I'm going to put all of these in as well. Pokemon Ranch. Another mystery dungeon game. Don't even ask me what that is. Poke Park. Never touched it. I've never experienced the Ranger sequel. Have I? No, I have not. The card game I've never touched. Typing Adventure. Blast. Poke Park 2. Pokemon Conquest. Dream Radar. Mystery Dungeon again. Wait. Yeah. There's only one Mystery Dungeon I have experience with, and that's the one, Rescue Team DX. Pokemon Snap. The Magikarp mobile game. Detective Pikachu. Pokemon Quest. I have experience with Snap. Pinball. Unite. Whatever this is. Pictocross. Mystery game. This is for the Game Boy. Ultras. Academy. Camp Pokemon. This. I also have not experienced Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, X and Y. So these are, including Gold, Silver, and Crystal, these are all of the games I have experience with. So when it comes to never experienced, one of the things I definitely want to do at some point is get to the Ranger sequel and explore the Mystery Dungeon games some more. But let's continue with this. So Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. And when it comes to like a generation, I'm going to keep like those in the series together because I feel like they were more so meant to be together. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, I would say Gen 3, A tier. Although I'll put Emerald's one of those S tier games because it took upon Ruby and Sapphire and expanded on and enhanced them. You know, Nintendo back when they were doing, and you know what, I will put Crystal in A tier now that I think about it because it's a bit above the original games that came out. So let's continue with red, blue, yellow, and I saw in here green. So red and blue, as well as green, I'd say are... Do I put them in B tier or do I put them in C tier? I don't know. That's a good question. Because with these were the first Pokemon games. I'm honestly going to put them in C tier, actually. And I'm going to put yellow in B tier because this was the first time that they expanded upon, a game. And then, C tier is like your base standard, and I feel like Gen 1 should be our baseline. Then we have Pokemon Coliseum. A tier. The first Coliseum game was... Do I put Coliseum in S tier, though? No, not quite. It just misses out on it just because I feel like while it is a Pokemon game, it's not a Pokemon game, if that makes sense. Like, it was so, out there, but so good that it can't quite like it's at top of A tier, knocking on S tier. Same with XD Gale of Darkness. Those two games are one and the same, at least in my book. I know some people are like, oh, one's better than the other, but for me personally, those are like just knocking on S tier. Next up, we have Fire Red and Leaf Green. I'd say that those are B tier games. Like, they were very good. Like, don't get me wrong. In fact, they're borderline A tier. The only problem is they're remakes. So, they can't quite capture the same level as their original games. But at the same time, the remakes of the original games. So they kind of took Gen 1 and put it into Gen 3, if that makes sense. Next up, we have... Oh, I forgot to put this in here. Next up, we have Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Now, Platinum was personally, as I said before, my first ever Pokemon game. I still remember when I bought this. So for me, Platinum, just like Emerald, is an S tier. And Diamond and Pearl, I'm going to put in B tier. Like, they were honestly missing something. So, that honestly, that just goes to attest how good Platinum was as a game, at least for me. Because whenever I, experience, because I don't own Diamond or Pearl myself, but I have watched videos on it and like followed through, and the game just feels so empty compared to Platinum. It's really hard to explain. Next up, we have the Pokemon Ranger game. I'd say top of B tier. Really good game, but at the end of the day, it's not a Pokemon game. Like it's a game with Pokemon, not a Pokemon game. But like it's a really good game too. It just feels like you could take the Pokemon out of the game and it would still be a good game. But like it just has a Pokemon theme to it. So that's why my logic of putting it in B tier. Then we have Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Heart Gold was my second ever Pokemon game, and it was actually the first Pokemon game I ever beat. I beat it before I beat Platinum. So, for me, Heart Gold... Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I accidentally right-clicked. I would say A tier. They're A tier games, they're better than, their originals. And they kind of feel like Crystal, but like as if it's gold and silver. Next we have... Wait. What I put in here then? Oh, that's not the original Ranger game. Oops. Yeah, I've only ever experienced the first Pokemon Ranger game. So we're going to put that there. Alright, that's fixed. Next up is Pokemon Black and White. And Pokemon Black and White was actually my second game. Or not second, third game that I owned. Second game I beat. And honestly, they were really good games. I'm going to put them at top of A tier. Not quite S tier. And the same's going to go for Black and White too. Because while these games are underrated as hell, they aren't quite in that S tier, like, oh my god, this is like the most amazing thing I have ever experienced. But they were certainly some good games. Next up is Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I own Alpha Sapphire. I've never beaten the game. I've made it about 2/3 of the way through. But I have seen the ending of the game, all that. And I'd say, as for games, remakes go, they didn't quite live up to the hype. They were still good, but, like, for me personally, they just didn't capture the same wonder as what Gen 3 gives me. So I'm going to put them in B tier. They're definitely better than Diamond and Pearl, but I wouldn't go much further than that. Pokemon Snap, I don't like Pokemon Snap. Personally, I've played it on the N64 thing on the Switch. Didn't really like it. Pokemon Go. I'm gonna put that in C tier. Actually, no, D tier. I've played Pokemon Go, and I rather enjoyed it. But when it comes to how it ranks among Pokemon games, you just walk around and you flick the screen. There's no story. It's literally just it's literally just an addicting game you play outside. So like in reference to all of them, it goes in D tier. It's not the worst thing. Pokemon Snap's far worse. But aside from that, it needs to go in D tier. Don't know what that is. Okay, so last up we have in these games. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Thinking either high A or low A, high B. I'm probably going to put it in low A. Because these games, the nice thing about these games, you can complete the Pokedex. In fact, you can complete the Pokedex with shinies if you want to. Like, it's fairly easy. Like, there's so many things you can do, and, you know, it retells, like, the classic Gen 1 story. But, you know, you have more HD graphics. It uses the gimmick of Pokemon Go. But, like, it's just one of those things where it's a super chill experience of the original. Plus, I'm kind of just biased in the fact that you can put them on your shoulder. That's really cool. As someone who played Heart Gold, I'm a sucker for, like, the whole Pokemon follow you around thing. Wish it would make, like a comeback, but it hasn't. So yeah, that's where I would put the Let's Go games. Sword and Shield. Now, for the longest time, I had Alpha Sapphire. You know, I had Platinum, Black, Heart Gold, and I got Alpha Sapphire, played it a little bit, but never beat it. And I didn't touch Pokemon. I never got X and Y. Never got Black and White 2. But after that, I didn't touch Pokemon until I got Pokemon Sword when they announced Pokemon. Oh, it's not on here. Violet and Scarlet and Violet aren't on here. Well, that's okay, because that's where I would have put the currently playing. So I can just delete that row then. So, where would I put these games? That's complicated. Because these games are not hard at all. Like, in the slice. I did not have... I think I lost one battle the entire game. One battle. And I think it was just one of those things where... And it was like at the very beginning of the game. Like, the game is just so easy. But I really enjoyed the game, though, is the thing. Like I really enjoyed it for some reason. I'm going to have to put them in B tier. Bottom of B tier. Because of just how easy they were. But they were enjoyable. They were flashy. You know, there were moments where I'm just like, that looks so cool. Especially like when you fight the legendary and like, and you're just like, oh. But like, aside from that, it's just so easy. Alright. Mystery Dungeon DX. S tier. Undoubtedly. Just the story. And if, you know, Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team would probably go up there as well. Or at least would be an A tier. But Rescue Team DX is just an experience. It's just an amazing story. And a lot of, like, there isn't any, like, challenging battling. It uses, the mystery dungeon formula. But just the story alone is just chef's kiss. It's at the bottom of S tier. So my order for S tier would go Platinum, Emerald, Rescue Team DX. And like those are like the holy trinity of Pokemon games for me, at least. Next up, we have Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I'm going to get crucified for this, I feel like. At least people are going to be like, how could you? I didn't hate these games. Like, I really didn't. I wasn't expecting Platinum at all. Like, I wasn't even expecting, like, a Gen 4 remake, because it had just been so long since we last got, like, for reference, let's see, Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. No, 2014. Brilliant Diamond. 2021. It had been 7 years. 7 years gap between remakes. I had pretty much written them off. So for me, just getting a chance, because for me, Gen 4 has a soft spot in my heart, because that's where my experience with Pokemon began, was in Sinnoh. So to get to return to Sinnoh, when they announced Arceus, Diamond, and Pearl, I was ecstatic. I loved it. But I also realized these are Diamond and Pearl remakes. It's not a Platinum remake. And to add on to that, it wasn't Game Freak being the ones who developed the game. I was like, we're just getting Diamond and Pearl with a new coat of paint. So with that, I'm going to have to say C tier. Because when you think about it, they didn't do anything wrong. But they didn't do anything right either. But what they did have was nostalgia. So that's why I'm going to put them at the top of C tier. But I can't give them anything higher than C tier, for the simple fact that it's just Diamond and Pearl with a new coat of paint. Which really hurts, because I was so excited. But I'm not surprised either. And lastly, we have Pokemon Arceus. Pokemon Legends Arceus. And you know what? I'm going to put it in S tier. Make that 4 S tier games. Maybe it's just, my love of Sinnoh, and it takes place in the same area, however long in the past, the Sinnoh region. It brought me back into Pokemon in a way that I hadn't felt in years. So for that alone, it goes into S tier. Plus, you get your typical comic mechanics. There's a little bit of spice to it, crafting, environmental storytelling. You like the quests you do matter. They affect the world around you. And just the way you fill out the Pokédex makes you feel like you're actually doing research and actually creating a Pokédex that it feels like your efforts contribute to the effects of the Pokédex. And it's honestly just a really great game. The soundtrack is beautiful, and I just love the game. And it brought me back to when I was 9, playing Platinum. So that's my tier list. If you guys tiers, a lot of games were in A tier and B tier. Because I just like Pokemon games, and a lot of them just were in that region, because Pokemon, at least until I'd say around X and Y is probably when you would probably say that the quality started to show some signs of declining. At least that's what I believe. And obviously, we have a bunch of games I've never touched. But yeah, this, when it comes to games that I have experience with, this is my tier list. I'd love to know what you guys think. But with that, I'm going to have to go. And hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.